Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're learning Maseches Gittin Daf Nun Vav. Lots of ground to cover. We're starting at the 2 dots, 8 or 9 lines from the bottom of the page on Nun Hamid Beit. Let's jump right in. Amar Rav Yochanan, Mai Dechsiv. What does the pasuk mean when it says Ashrei Adam Mefachei Tamid Umak Shalibo Yipol Bira? What does this pasuk mean when it says that a person should be regularly scared? Umak Shalibo Yipol Bira, and if their heart is hardened, they will fall to evil. Says the Gemara. Akamsa ubar Kamsa charav Yerushalayim, that because of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, Yerushalayim was destroyed. Atarnagola v'tarnagolta charav Tur Malka, that because of a chicken and a hen, the city of Tur Malka was destroyed. And Ashka de Rifsak charav Beitar, Ashka de Rifsak. If you look at Rashi here, 8-9 lines from the bottom, he says Dofen Shel Markeves Nashim. It was the wall of some type of chariot carrying women. Because of that, charav Beitar, the city of Beitar was destroyed. All right, here's the famed story of Kamsa Bar Kamsa. We're 5-6 lines from the bottom of Nun Hamid Beis. There are many components to this story, and it is an extremely sad episode in our history, representative of a sad Kufa. And of course, we're in the 3 weeks, one of the many neshikos min hashamayim, that what we are doing is appropriately timed, and there's a shtickle hashgacha pratis. Kamsa Bar Kamsa charav Yerushalayim. What was the case where Kamsa and Bar Kamsa led to the destruction of Jerusalem? Tahu Gavra de Rachme Kamsa. There was this guy who loved Kamsa, Ubal de Bave Bar Kamsa, and he was actually an enemy of Bar Kamsa. Avad Sudasa, he made a party. And this guy, Amar Le Shame, he said to his servant, please, Zil Aisi li Kamsa, please go invite the person whom I love, please go invite Kamsa. Azal Aisi le Bar Kamsa. And he inadvertently sent the e-invite to somebody else. And also Ashkeche Dav Yasi, when the Balabais showed up to the party, he saw that his enemy was sitting there, and he was not having it. Omar le michti. Let's analyze. Ahu gavra de bal de bava. Dahu gavra dahu gavra hu. I see that my enemy is sitting here. My boys hacha. What are you doing here? Kum pok. Get up and get out. Omar le, look. Bar Kamsa said, look. Hoel va'asoi shavka. I'm already here. Please just leave me be. Don't make a whole scene. Just let me stay. Whatever I eat, whatever I drink, the money is yours. Omar le, the Balabai said, lo, Rashi, lo shavikna lach. I'm not letting you stay here. Omar le, Bar Kamsa said, look, I'll pay for half the party. Omar le, lo, I don't want your money. I want you out of here. Omar le, I'll pay for everything. Stop making such a scene. You're being a child. Stop making a scene. Let bygones be bygones. Let me just stay at the party. Omar le lo nakte biyode. He took him by his own hands, ve'okme, and stood him up, ve'apke, and threw him out of his house. Omar, and Bar Kamsa was upset. Hol ve'habu yasve rabbanon v'lo malchu bei. Because other rabbanon from the community were sitting at this party, they saw what happened. They saw the sinas chinam, and they didn't do anything. Shma mina kanicha lehu. It seems to be that their silence is actually approval. That their silence is actually approval. It says the Gemara, Ezul echel behu kurza be malka. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go tell the kurza be malka. I'm going to go tell everyone. Rashi at the top of the page says malshinos. He's going to be malshin on the Jews. Azal, he did so. Amar leila Caesar, he said to the Caesar, Mar dubach Yehuday. The Jews are rebelling against you. Amar le mi yemar. How do you know this? Amar le shadar lehu korbana. Go send a sacrifice. Tell them that you want to send a sacrifice and see what they do. Chazis imakriven le. See if they're even willing to engage with your korban, if they're going to bring it on the mizbeach. So Azal, the Caesar did so. Shadar biyade eglatilsa bahade de kaasi. He said that he sent this animal, an eglatilsa, a very fine animal, a fattened up animal, according to some. Shada beimuma, but on the way, I should say, kama bahade de kaasi. While it was on the way, shada beimuma. Bar Kamsa put a little cut in the animal that was a mum. A mum, says the Gemara, beniv sfasayim, on his lips, or va'amrila bedukin shaba'ayin, or in the white part of the eye, he created some type of wound, and that's duchta delididan havamuma, by the yidden. That type of injury is considered a mum, but ulididhu lab mumahu. But according to the goyim, according to the Caesar, it wouldn't be considered a mum. The fact that this animal has a tiny little cut on his lip, what is the big deal? What's the big deal? But according to the Yidden, that's a halachic psul, because our halachic system is quite nuanced, as we will soon see at the bottom of this page. So Savu Rabbanan Likruve Mishum Shalom Malchus. They knew that it came from the Caesar. The Jews, the people who were running the Beis HaMikdash, knew what was going on, and they said, look, we got to think about the politics here. If we don't bring this korban, we're asking for trouble. So Amar Lahu Rav Zechariah ben Avkulas, he was the one who was being a kanoi for halacha. Yomru Bali Mumin Kraven the Gabe Mizbech. People are going to make a mistake. He was taking a myopic view and saying that if we allow this animal to be shechted on the base on the mizbeach, people are going to think that an animal that has a mum can be karev on the mizbeach. So then they jumped to a rather drastic other option. Savra lemiktale de lo lezel v'lema. They said, you know what? Maybe we should go on the black dark, what's it called? The black web? The dark web. The dark web. And we should hire an assassin. Let's get this guy killed. Let's get Bar Kamsa killed. He won't go back. And then all will be fine and good. Amar Lahu, Rav Zechariah, Yomru Matil Mum Bekodshim Yehare. But maybe someone will misunderstand and say that the reason why we killed Bar Kamsa isn't because of the political concerns, but they'll misunderstand and say, maybe people will assume that if you bring a korban with a mum, it's capital crime, which is an odd concern. And look at this jab from Rav Yochanan. Rav Yochanan's obviously an Amora, well after the Churban Habayis. Somewhat well after the Churban Habayis, just 150 years or so after the Churban. Amar Rav Yochanan, An Visanuso shel Rav Zechariah ben Avkulas. The humility of Rav Zechariah ben Avkulas, Rashi, fourth line, toward the end of the line, An Visanuso, Savlanuso shesaval es ze velo harago. Because of his patience, because he tolerated not killing Bar Kamsa, says Rav Yochanan, Hechriva es Beisenu, it is he who is responsible for destroying our Beis HaMikdash, V'sarfa es Hechalenu, and that special room, the Hechal, was destroyed, V'higlisanu me'artzenu, that is not a good resume to have said about you in the name of Rav Yochanan. Really, there was an error that was made here. They should have killed Bar Kamsa. So Shadar ilavaihu leNiron Kesar, and then Niron Kesar was then appointed over the Jews. Things are starting to move in a bad direction, and here's what happened. Kikaasi, when he got there, Shada Gira leMizrach, he shot an arrow. He shot an arrow into the east, and Asa Nafal Yerushalayim, and then it took a path and landed in Yerushalayim. That's what happened. That's where the arrow fell. And then Lema'arav, he shot another arrow 180 degrees the opposite direction. Asa Nafal Yerushalayim, it hooked around and landed in the same place. Le'arba Ruchos Hashamayim Asa Nafal Yerushalayim. And here he could see that there was more at play here than he was bargaining for. Amar Leili Anuka, he said to his children, he said to 8 children, a child like walking in the streets of Yerushalayim, Psokli Pesukech, tell me, what did you learn in Cheder this morning? It says the Gemara, Amar Lei, V'nasati es nikmosi be'edom, biyad ami Yisrael, I'm going to take out my vengeance on Edom by the hands of Yisrael. Amar, Niron, who was the Caesar, said, Amar, Kutchabricho, who bay lichruve bese. There's no question to me that because of how the arrows fell, and because of the hashgacha pratis of the psukim, that the kinderlach are learning, it's clear that a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to destroy his house. Ubay lichpure yadeh behu gavra. And he wants it to be at the hands of one person from whom he's going to take vengeance. But I don't want that to be me. So look at the next line of the Gemara. Niron took the writing on the wall. He knows the way that a Kadosh Baruch Hu works. Arak, the Azal, the Igayer, the Nafak Minei Rav Meir. So he said, I am not touching this with a 10-foot pole. What's Nafak? Nafak, he went, which word? Nafak, V'nafak Minei, a descendant of his, came from him, literally, to exit from him, meaning one of his descendants was Rav Meir. So I was just thinking about this today.
Rav Meir,
what? He's one of them, yeah. But what is a famed sheet of Rav Meir? Rav Meir is chayesh l'mi'uta throughout Shas. What was Niron being choshesh for? What if a Kadosh Baruch Hu is real? What if a Kadosh Baruch Hu is actually the real deal? I don't want to get punished. And who's his descendant? Rav Meir, who's chayesh l'mi'uta. I don't know if it's true. Rav Meir has a sheet throughout Shas that he's always chayesh for the uncommon scenarios. So if in fact this is me talking, I don't know if it's true. I'm totally babbling. It could be sheker v'chazav. But yesh b'zeh davar ma. It looks appropriate. It looks appropriate. We'll see another diuk, not about this, but a similar possibility with another person at the bottom of the page. But it could be that the same, we have this in research too. If you have a parent who parents in a certain style, so then the grandchildren will parent in a similar style, because that's osmosis, you absorb.
So no one commented on Rabbi Yochanan comment in the entire Gemara. The not comment.
Not one word.
That screams volumes, no?
Not one word. The silence is deafening, and it means that they agree with him, I think. Otherwise, Rabbi Yochanan should have been rebuked for commenting so sharply about a tremendous Tana. But that Tana made a huge error.
Could I interrupt you? Tremendous Tana?
No.
I know this, but before they say that name doesn't appear anywhere else in Shas. So you have a world-changing machlokas going on what to do, and this guy in the back of the room stands up and gives his opinion.
Was his name left out?
Anywhere else?
No, but was his name left out because we don't want to talk about him anymore?
Because he wasn't.
What?
You know 10 million from that.
Yeah.
Period, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
None of they must have been.
I'm asking if the silence of his name throughout Shas is the people who wrote the Gemara saying we don't want to talk about this guy.
The words that they say is that's the one time that he had what to say.
Why did they listen to him? Okay, so that was this part of the Gemara.
Who called for the killing in the first place, right?
They were all talking when the korban was being brought.
Say, well, no name.
We also don't know, by the way, the name of the person who had the party of who invited. We don't. That person's name is also not in the Gemara. Maybe in the Rishon. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. What?
He deserves to not have. Right, then they ask the question.
He deserves to have his name.
Thompson got his name stuck in here.
Why?
Why?
He was
have his name when he was such a.
He should be called out just like this Tana was called out.
No. So why let his name live on for Doris when he's that type of person?
Okay,
You're saying the same thing.
We are. It's just it's two sides of the same coin. I'm saying throw him under the bus. You're saying don't give him any credit. Right. Yeah. But it's not a compliment to be in Shas forever and ever and have people hear your name and drag it through the mud. I don't know which one's better or worse.
Right?
Yeah, Nachanami. I don't know which one's better. I don't know. All right. If we're going to finish before Shacharis, we need to move. Third of the way down. So now Niron, he converted. He's out. So Shadri Lavaihu Le'aspasainus, which is Vespasian Caesar. Vespasian, as we know from some of our history books, also Tsar Allah Tlas Shnei. He sieged Yerushalayim for 3 years. Havu ba Hanhu Tlasa Asire. There were 3 wealthy people during that time. Nakdimon Ben Gurion, Uben Kalba Savua, that person we know, related to Rabbi Akiva. Uben Tzitzis HaKeses. Let's analyze these 3 names because these 3 names are descriptors of who these people actually were. Nakdimon Ben Gurion Shenokdalo Chama Ba'avuro, that the son held in one place for him. Ayin in the Rishonim. Ben Kalba Savua, what about him? Shekol HaNichnas Leveso Kshehu Ra'ev Kikelev. Anyone who would enter into his home who was starving and ravenous as a dog, Yotzek Shu Savea, would always leave the home when he was satiated. He was a good host. Ben Tzitzis HaKeses, what's this guy? Shaisa Tzitziso Nigreres Al Gabe Ksasos. He would always have his tzitzis dragging on pillows, meaning he always walked the red carpet. He lived a chash of a life. He could amrishay successes muteles ben gedolei rome, that he lived among the famous, among the big gedolim of Rome. Okay, now of these 3 fine gentlemen, chad amar lehu ana zayna lehu bechite usare. I'm going to take care and feed the Jews with wheat and with barley. V'chad amar lehu b'dechamra u'v'demilcha umishcha. I have enough money to feed everyone with wine, with salt, and with oil. And the third person says, I'm going to take care of all of the wood that's needed to bake all of the bread. That's a huge need also. Says the Gemara, the rabbi said that the greatest of the 3 was the person who had access to all of the fuel. Things haven't changed. He who has the oil has the money. And the Gemara says, the Rav Chizda, we learned that from Rav Chizda, because kol iklide have a maser l'shame bar min detzivi. Iklide, the Rishonim here, right? Actually, the Achronim, the Maharshal writes that this is a key. He says that the keys to all things of Rav Chizda were given over except for the key to the wood. No one gives over the key to the oil reserves. We don't even know where they are. Damar of Chizda, akalba dechite ba'ishitin akalbe detzive. For every unit of wheat, we would need 60 units of wood to burn to cook that wheat, to make it into bread. Okay. An unbelievable amount of food. They had enough food to feed everyone, for 21 years. And then things really take a turn. There were these Jews who were not Gishmak people. They were contrarians, and they were really the big troublemakers. And Amru Lahu Rabbanan, the rabbis were of the opinion of Nepuk v'nabed shlama behadayu. Let's do the geopolitics. Let's go talk things out and let them know that there was just a miscommunication with the korban. It wasn't because we didn't respect you. We have a technicality. Let's talk things out. But Lo Shavkinu, the Biryone, these people who were basically, we'll call them the mafia, they would not, the Jewish mafia, they would not allow for the rabbis to go and try and do the peace talks. So Amru Lahu, Nepuk v'naved, Krava be'adayu. They said that they'd rather have war with these people, with Vespasian. Amru Lahu Rabbanan lo mistaya milsa. They're not a fan. Kamu, Kalanhu lahanhu, Amivri dechite v'sare v'havuchafna. So what these people did is they burned down all of the warehouses with all 21 years worth of food and wood. And then there was a kafna, then there was a famine. And what can you do? Famine always brings about war. It's survival of the fittest. And when you're starving, you're starving. How poor were they? The Gemara tells the following story, about 2/3 of the way down. Marta bas Baitus, Asirta di Yerushalayim Havia. She was one of the wealthy elder women of Yerushalayim. Shtarte lishluche, she sent her servant into the market. V'amrle zil aisi li smida. Go buy me the most expensive, finest flour that you can find. Ado Azal Isban. By the time he got to the marketplace, the servant wasn't able to find any. It had all been stolen. Asa, he returned home to Marta bas Baitus and Amarla smida leka, but chivrisa ika. They don't have the smida, the very expensive, the Whole Foods brand. They have regular stuff, just regular white flour. So she said, Amarla zil aisi, fine, no problem. Okay, it's a tough time, I understand. Just give me the white flour. Ado Azal, so he went back to the market to buy it in Izdivan. There was no white flour left. And Asava Amarla chivrisa leka gushkara ika. We don't have the white flour, but we have the lower, more coarse form of flour. What can I do? I'm sorry, Marta bas Baitus, there isn't much left. Amra le, zil aisili, go buy it for me. Then the shliach went back to the marketplace. The azal is divan. By the time he got back to the market, even the gushkara was sold. Asava amar la gushkara leka but kimcha desare ika. We don't have any of the coarse type of regular wheat flour left, but there is some barley flour left if you'd like. So Amrle zil aisili, please go buy it for me. Adu azal is ban. And by the time the shliach got there, all of it had been sold. What? Yeah, just buy it while you're there. Kasha and Maisa. That's a great story. I like that. I was wondering the same, but didn't spend the time to look it up. Good question. Hava Shlifa Masana, she happened to not have been wearing shoes at the time when she heard this last piece of news, that there was really nothing left to buy. Amra, so she said, you know what? When you want things done right, do it yourself. Epuk ve'echse imishkachna midi lemechal. I'm going to go out myself and see if there's any way that I can possibly find any food. Esavla parta bekara v'mesa. She walked outside and she stepped on some feces. And because she was such a mefunak, she was such an istinist, she was so particular, she literally died. Karela Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, okay, a little much. Haraka bach v'ha'anuga asher lo nista kaf ragla. A reference to her, these people who are so delicate, they're soft feet people, and they can't even handle what touches their feet. Some say that's actually not what happened. Ikade Amre, 15, 20 lines from the bottom, Ikadamre grogeris Reb Tzadok achla v'isnisa umesa. That the grogeris, the types of dates that Reb Tzadok used to eat, these were the dates that she was given, and she died when she was exposed to one of them. Who is this Reb Tzadok? A big tzaddik. The Reb Tzadok Yosef arba'in shnin b'ta'anisa dalo lechorev Yerushalayim. It is so hard for us to imagine in 2023 in Tafshin Pei Gimel what it's like to have Yerushalayim and to run the risk of losing it. This man fasted for 40 years. That is a wild amount of time.
What's he try? He ate at night or he drank?
Yeah, he ate at night. He ate at night. Yeah. B'Tanisa, and what was his fast about? The Lo Lecharav Yerushalayim. We have no hasaga. We try one day a year to get our feelings in order. This was everything to them. They couldn't see the world any other way than having Yerushalayim. And he fasted for 40 years. And when he did actually, ki hava achil midi, when he did anything, hava mischaze me'avroi, you could see the food going down his throat. He was completely emaciated. V'chi hava bari, maisile grogeris, what he would do is they would, when he was eating this healthy food, what he would do is he would be mayitz maihu, he would just suck out the juices, v'shadilahu, and throw the shell, not the shell, but throw the rest of the fruit, the actual flesh of the fruit, throw it out. Ki hava kanicha nafsha, apikte lechol da. Oh, sorry, and that is what she found and either stepped on or tasted. She did something with them, and that is when she died. And when she was about to die, ki hava kanach nicha nafsha, when Marta bas Baitus was about to die, apikte lechol dava v'chaspa. She took all of her gold and all of her silver and shadise b'shuka, and she threw it into the marketplace. Amra, hi l'may mi boili. Well, I'm dying. What am I going to do with this? It's just money. A play on words from the pasuk from Yechezkel, that the money was thrown outwards, and that was her money. Now, this guy who was in charge of the Biryoni, the head of the mafia boss, Abba Sikra Reish Biryoni Yerushalayim, Bar Achte de Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was the nephew of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Shalach le ta b'tzina legaboy. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to Abba Sikra, who was, again, the head of the mafia, please, privately, just come to me. Don't bring your whole entourage. I just want to talk to you privately. Asa. So Abba Sikra went to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Omar le ad emas avitu hachi v'katiltu le alma b'chafna. What are you guys doing, lighting all of these fires and burning all of these resources to create famine? You got to stop. This is crazy. Omar le, Abba Sikra is stuck in his own world. Ma'i avid. I am stuck. I can't say anything, uncle. I'm stuck. What am I supposed to do? Amarle, chazili takanta lididi de epuk. At the very least, try and get me out so I can try and work something out. Efshar dahave hatzala porta. Perhaps I can create some type of hatzala porta, at least some type of small savings. You're right. Maybe I won't be able to stop the war, but maybe I could lessen the issues that we're having. Amar le, here's what you should do. This is what Abba Sikra recommended to Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai. Nekod nafshecha b'ktsiri. You should take your soul and make it as though you are sick. You should basically play dead. V'leisu kulei alma, v'lei shailu bach, and everyone will start asking about you. V'aisi midi sarya ve'agni gabach v'leimru denach nafshach. You'll put something that has a terrible odor in that room with you. Take a dead animal, whatever the case may be. Place it there so people will think you've died and your body is already decomposing. Only allow your students to be the pallbearers to carry you. Why? So nobody feels your weight. That a person who's alive seems to have a feel that's less than those who are dead. When people are alive, they very gently reposition their bodies in a way to make it feel as though, if you ever carry an awake child or carry a sleeping child, they feel very different. The lethargy, the log, it's a dead weight. So they don't let anybody else touch you. So fine. Avid Hachi, that's what he did. Nechnas bo Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Eliezer mitzad echad, Rabbi Yoshua mitzad echad. Two of his talmidim stood at his sides. Nobody else carried him. So now they had to bury him. At that time, you weren't allowed to bury anyone in Yerushalayim. So kimatu lepischa, when they got to the barricade to get out of the city, bo lemitkare, the biryone, these evil mafia peoples wanted to stick a knife into the flesh just to make sure he was taka dead. Amar lahu yomru rabbanan dakru. They're gonna say about you that you stabbed the Rav. Like what's wrong with you? Of course you're not going to do that. So bo lemitchave, they wanted to push around the mace to see if he'd react. Poke him a little bit and see what's going on. And the Gemara says, Amar lahu yomu rabbanon dachvu. They're going to say about you that you shoved the dead rabbi. This is not the way to behave. So they let Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai in the pine box. They let him out. Paschule bava. They let him out. Now, Nafak, he went out, and Kimata lahasam, when he went to finally go greet the Caesar, Omar, he said to him, Shlama alach malka, may peace be upon you, may peace be upon you. Omar le mechai v'streik tala. For that one sentence that you just said, Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, you are chayiv misa twice over. Chada, first of all, delav malka ana, I'm not the king. This the karis li malka, and you called me the king. That is number one reason for you to be killed. And visu, and furthermore, I malka ana, if in fact I am the king, you should have showed up to kiss the ring. Ad ha'idna amai lo asis legaboy. Why didn't you come to visit me? So the Gemara responds that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says as follows: Amar le, Tika Amris, when you argued and said about me that I said about you, Lav Malka Ana, that I said you're not a king, I know a little bit more than you do. Says the Gemara on the top of Nun Vav Amud Beis, Ibra Malkaat. Rashi, Tibur Hamaschil at the top of the page, Ibra, Be'emes Melech ata asid lihyos. You will be a king in the future. How do I know? Because otherwise the pasuk doesn't make sense. This is a pasuk that we have in Yeshaya. The lav malkaat, if you're not the king, the lo mimser Yerushalayim biyadach, then Yerushalayim will not fall in your hands. It's impossible. The only way that Yerushalayim can fall is in the hands of a king. T'chsiv halavanon ba'adir yipol ve'ein adir el hamelech. T'chsiv hayu adiro mimenu ve'ein levanon el beis hamikdash shinamar atov hazeh v'halavanon. So question number one that you asked against me, that you said I was chayiv, me said that you're not the king, you will soon be the king. And question number two, 4 or 5 lines down, and as to why, if I thought you were the king, why I didn't visit you until now, Biryoni de Ispan, Lo Shavkina. These mafia guys are being ridiculous, and they're not letting me even come and talk to you, but I want to come and talk to you. Amar le, so he says back to Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, Ilu chavish shal devash v'darkon karuchale. If you have a barrel filled with honey and a snake wrapped around the barrel, what do you do to solve the problem? Lo hayu shover nesechavis bishvil darkon. You should destroy. You should just destroy Yerushalayim yourself. Who cares about the biryonim? Just do what's going to end up happening. It's inevitable. So Ishtik, he didn't give back an answer, even though there were plenty of retorts to be given. And in fact, the Gemara says that something beyond nature was happening here. Kari alei Rav Yosef yitem Rabbi Akiva. One of them said, "Meishiv chachamim achor v'daitam yisachel," that he wasn't able to respond. He lost his das in that moment because iboyle lemeimar. The answer is not to destroy the barrel. He should have said shaklinon lemeimar le. He should have said shaklinon tzav. So go get some tongs or something. V'shaklinon le the darkon. Remove the snake v'katzlinon and kill him le the chavisa shavkinon le and save the barrel. The fact that the biryonim are being difficult doesn't mean that I should partake in destroying Yerushalayim. It means I should partake in getting rid of the snake, which in this case is the biryonim. Adehachi. This was the Hashgacha Pratis piece, first of the middle width lines. While this was happening, Asa Pristika Ale Mirome. There was a soldier, some type of traveler. Rashi says, Rashi on the 4th line of the page, Dibur Hamaschil Pristika says Shliach, a messenger shows up from Rome. Amarle, they say to Vespasian, Kum de Misle Caesar. The Caesar has died and you are now in charge. Amar Hanhu Chashive de Rome Leosivach Beresha. You are now the king. At that time when this happened, he was only wearing one shoe. Well, I don't know what is going. Okay. Omer Dorsheni says the Gemara, have a Sayim Chad Masani. He was wearing one shoe, and by the Masayim Alachrina, he wanted to put on his other shoe. He knew he had to travel. Lo Ayel, and he wasn't able to get his second shoe on. Then the Gemara says, by the Mishlaf Ali Idach, he wanted to take off the one that was on. He couldn't get that off either. Lo Nafak. So what is going on here? I've been putting on my shoes for decades. Why can't I take off my shoe? And why can't I put on another shoe? Omar Maihai, he says to Rav Yochanan, what's going on? Rav Yochanan, of course, knows everything. Omar Le lo sitztair, don't let this bother you. Shmua tova asyalach, some good news happened to you. Dechsiv shmua tova tidashein etzem, that when there are good things that happen to a person, the bones become saturated, meaning your feet will swell a little bit. And that's why you can't get your shoe off or on, because your feet are swollen. Fascinating Gemara. Elamai Kante, what should happen? Leisi inish de lo misvadai tachmine v'lichlif kamach. Go find someone who you really don't like that much and have them walk in front of you. Dichsiv v'ruach necha'a tiyavesh garam. That when there's a depression, when there's a lower sense of emotions, then things dry up and the swelling in your feet, the edema will go down. Your shoes will be put on and off very easily. Ovad hachi and ayil. Then he was able to put on his other shoes. He had some guy walk by who he didn't like, least favorite employee of the month, and all is well and good. Amar le, he says to Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, If you're so smart, then I don't understand. Why didn't you come visit me? Didn't we already discuss this?
Yeah.
Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai says, Amar le, weren't you listening? Velo amri lach. Didn't I already respond to this question? So he says back to him, Amar le, you did, but ananami amri lach. I didn't like your answer. You said you're supposed to kill the snake. I don't like your answer. You should have broken the barrel. So that's what the Gemara is saying. Amar le, mezal azilna v'inish acharina mishdarna. He says that they're going to be sending someone else in my place. But just ask, he says, Vespasian says to Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, you can ask anything you want from me. So a little bit of a controversial response, because here's what he says. Omar le, the first thing he's said to Vespasian is, Tainli Yavne v'chachameha. Please save for me Yavne and all of the wise people. And as well, Vishushilta de Rabban Gamliel. I'd like you to save the generations of Rabban Gamliel. And Ve'asvasa de Messiah le Rabbi Tzadok. And I'd like you to help me heal Rav Tzadok. So Rav Yosef was bothered by this. Kari ale Rav Yosef item Rabbi Akiva. Meshiv chachamim machor v'daitam yisachel. Here too we apply the line that he wasn't thinking properly. Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, you asked for the wrong thing. Leave the Jews alone entirely. Why didn't you go for the gold? Why didn't you go for the jugular and just say, save all the Jews? What are you asking for? Saving a couple of families? What are you doing? It doesn't even make any sense. If you're in that scenario, that's what you do. You go for everything. But no, he was a politician, Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai. He knew exactly what he was doing, halfway down, 5 lines before the very wide lines. He said, look, there's no way. We're in wartime. There's no way he's going to give me all of that. Even if I ask for that, it won't help me for anything. So at the very least, I should ask for the things that I'm going to get. Okay? So now the Gemara interjects that third thing that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai requested, which was to heal Reb Tzadok, who was obviously, this was the big tzaddik from the Amud Aleph, who had fasted for 40 years. So asvasa de mesayin le Reb Tzadok maihi. What was the healing process to save him? So says the Gemara, Yom HaKama, on the first day, Ashkiyuha Maya de Pare. He should drink water that's been soaked in bran. Lemachar, the next day, he should drink Maya de Sipuka. Sipuka is a bit of a thicker bran. We're kind of making the food thicker as we move along, one day at a time. Lemachar, on the third day, Maya de Kimcha, water that has flour on it, which is still even further, still even thicker, ravach me'eha, until his stomach can expand more, purta, a little bit at a time, until he is healed and returns to normal. And then, of course, the final turn. Azal, Shadre the Titus Harasha. And this is where Titus Harasha comes in, and he is the one who was successful at the final destruction. The Omar, E Eloheim Otzur Chasav Bo. What does this pasuk mean, that where is your God? Zetitus Harasha, Shechirev V'gidev Klape Mala. He is the one who is Chirev V'gidev. He blasphemed against the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Ma'asa. It's so hard to imagine and to envision this scene. Tafas Zona Biyado. He brought a prostitute. B'nichnas L'beis Kodshei HaKodashim. And he went into the holiest place on planet Earth. The single holiest place, which had the Kruvim, and it's so hard to imagine. V'tzia Sefer Torah, and he opened a Sefer Torah, v'avar aleha avera, and with that Sefer Torah, and with her, an avera was done. V'notal sayif v'gideres haparoches. He took a sword and he sliced the paroches. V'na'asenes, and a miracle occurred. V'hayadam mevatz beitz v'yotze, and blood was bubbling out. V'chasavor haruges atzmo. This is speaking in metaphor, in a euphemism. He thought that he killed himself, meaning he thought that he successfully killed HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is of course impossible. Shneimar sha'agut v'recha b'kerev moadecha samu osos. That these were the miracles that took place, and he thought that he killed HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Abba Chanan Omer, mi kamocha chasinka. Who is like you, chasinka? Typically, this pasuk is listed in a positive form, yet here it's listed in quite a negative form. It's a criticism. Mi kamocha chasin v'koshe. You, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're so strong and you're being difficult. She'ata shomea ni'utzo v'gidufo shel osa rasha v'shosek. How could you listen to what this person is saying? You're the Eibishter on high. How could you listen to what's happening and be silent? And another pasuk that's taken out of appropriate context and used as a form of not understanding a Kodesh Baruch Hu. We're 2/3 of the way down, 3 lines into the wide lines. Debei Rav Yishmael Tana, Mi kamocha bo'elim Hashem. Mi kamocha be'ilamim. Who is like you, who's playing like a deaf mute? All of this terrible stuff is happening, and you're not doing anything. Ma'asa, what did Titus HaRasha do? Natal paroches. He took the paroches down. Ve'asau kimin gargusni. He made it like a skin that usually is used to hold wine, meaning he made it into a sack of some kind. Ve'vi kol kelim shebemikdash, and he took all of the kelim in the base of mikdash. Ve'nichan bahen, and he put it inside of that gargusni, inside of that paroches. Ve'oshivan besfina lelechu lehishtabech be'iro. And he took it and he placed it on a ship to bring it and to be praised for what he had done in his own hometown. Shne'emaru v'chein ra'isi rishayim kivurim. I saw rishayim that are buried uvo, and they've shown up. Umimakom kadosh yehalechu. They came from a place that was holy. V'yishtakchu be'ir asher kenasu. And they were found in a city where all that was done. Al tikri kvurim ela kivutzim. You should go to a city not where the evil are buried, but where the evil are gathered, namely going back to his hometown. And al tikri v'yishtakchu ela v'yishtabchu. And it's not that it's where they are found, but where they are praised. And that is one version of understanding this pasuk in Ika de Amre, that really it's not really kvurim mamish. Ta'afilu mili de metamran, even things that were hidden, even items that were kelim of the Beis HaMikdash that were not revealed, iglion lahon, they were shown to him. The light shone, whatever the case may be, and he took all of the kelim with him. Amad alav nachshol shebiyam letovo. All of a sudden, a massive storm took place, and their ship was being threatened to capsize. Amar kimedume ani she'elohehem shel elu en gvurasa el b'mayim. Oh, they couldn't do anything to me on the ground, so maybe the God only has power while we're at sea. So ba paro tavo bayam, that Paro was drowned in the water. So lulu koferes b'mayim adrim. Ba sisra tavu b'mayim, and I said bayam, excuse me. Paro tavu b'mayim. Ba sisra tavu b'mayim. He too was swept away by the waters. That's what the psukim in Shoftim say. Afu omer alay l'tova eni b'mayim. So Kodesh Baruch Hu, please excuse me, but you only got game on water, but you don't seem to be able to do anything to me on land. Im gibor hu yala li abasha v'yaseh mi milchama. If you're really strong, Kodesh Baruch Hu, you can show your game on the ground, but we're not going to fight on the water. Rasha ben beno shel Esav harasha. This is not the type of intro you'd like to see on a wedding invitation. It's a very strong negative, obviously. Beria kala yeshli be'olami. I have a very light, a very small creation in my world. V'yitush shema. We call this a gnat or a mosquito, a tiny little nothing. We kill them and swat them away. We buy products to keep them out of our backyards. Amai karile beria kala. Why is it that they're referred to as a beria kala? Says the Gemara, this particular animal, this particular bug is the ma'alna isle. It has a mouth with which to eat, umifkana lesle, but it doesn't have the capacity to defecate, meaning everything it eats, it keeps in its body. Finally, the ship made it ashore. Here is what happened. He got on the land. Ba yitosh, this mosquito came along, v'nichnas bechotmo, and entered his nostrils, v'nakar b'mocho sheva shanim, and it chipped away at his brain for 7 years. He was going crazy. All of this is, of course, b'hashkafa. What's the 7 for? What's the mosquito for? What's the chotem, the nostrils for? Everything here is a gem, and it requires hours of reading all the footnotes and looking up the marshas, looking up the Ein Yaakov, etc. Yom Echad, 12 lines or so from the bottom. Hava kachalif abava de beinafcha. He passed by the store of a blacksmith who was constantly banging with hammers and metals. And when he passed by, Shama Kal Arzafta and Ishtik, he heard the sound of the metal clanking together, and the bug inside his head stopped with his clanking on his brain. Omar, oh, what a relief. Ika takanta, I know the solution to this. I need someone to bang on metal all day, everywhere I go. That's not a life either, but probably better than it be an external sound than an internal chipping. Kol yoma maisu nafcha, every day he would have a blacksmith in the palace, umachu kameh, and he would be banging away. Lenachri, if the blacksmith that was hired was a goy, so he would get paid yoivle arba zuze. If it was a Yisrael, the Yisrael Amar le mistayich de kachazis besanach. It's enough that you get to see me. You get to see your enemies. You're not getting paid. And ad tlasin yomin of ad hachi. This is what they did for 30 days. But after 30 days, the bug on the inside was no longer distracted by the external sounds. Mikan ve'elach kevan dedash dash. Whatever the bug did it wanted to do, and it kept chipping away now at its brain. And says the Gemara, Tanya, the Brisa reads as follows. Amar Pinchas ben Aruva, Ani hayisi ben Gedolei Rome. I was among the great people of Rome. Uchshemes, when Titus died, Pitso es mocho, they took an axe and they cracked open his skull. Umitso bo kitzipor duror mishkal shnei slaim. They found a drawer, which is a type of bird, that was the weight of 2 slaim. B'masnisa tana, that it wasn't that, it was a different type of bird. It was kigozal, it was like a pigeon, ben shana mishkal shnei litrin. Again, different measures. And Amar Abai Naktinan, we have a tradition. Piv, the mouth of this bird was nechoshes, was bronze. Vitzipornav shel barzel, and its nails were made out of iron. Not the kind of thing you want in your brain. Kihava Kamayis, when he was about to die, Amar Lahu, Titus said, Likliyuha le'ahu gavra, talking about himself, burn me, ulevidre likitme ashev yame. And I'd like you to spread my ashes across 7 different bodies of water. He even knew that there was going to be a day where he had to pay for what he did. And so he said, burn my body. And what I'd like to do is to be spread out over 7 bodies of water so that the Eibishter can't catch up with me. The Gemara now tells a story. Unculus bar Clonicus bar achte de Titus. Unculus bar Clonicus, we know. And the Gemara here says that he's bar achte de Titus, that he was actually the nephew of Titus. However, if you look in the Meforshim here, it actually changes this, and it's really not Titus. Why? Where is the change? The Hagos Hagra says it was a different person. It was the nephew of the Andrinus Hava, not Titus. And we'll discuss why that's valuable in a minute. And Unculus Hava Boyle Igure, as we know from other parts of Shas, Unculus was interested in converting to Judaism. Ozal, Aske the Titus ben Agida. After Titus died, he pulled Titus up from the depths of Gehenna by using Ov, which is this form of communicating with the dead, necromancy. And he did so ben Agida. Rashi calls it Ov. That Rashi is found, the last Rashi on the page, that Negida is Ov, this form of communicating with the dead. Omar Le, he says to Titus HaRasha, who's dead already, but he's talking to his spirit, let's call that, I don't know the right word. Man chashiv be'ahu alma, who is considered the top of the food chain in the next world. Amar le, Titus had no choice but to say the truth. Yisrael, the Jewish people are the top of the food chain. Mahu li'id buke behu, what about me clinging to them? I'm a goy, says Unculus, maybe I should convert. Now remember, he could never have done this if he was already Jewish, because Ov is an Isser in Sefer Dvarim, it's in Parshas Shoftim. Ov Yidoni, you're not allowed to do this, so he's obviously still a goy. Amar le, milaihu nefishin v'lo matis l'kiyuminhu. Their words are many, you will not be able to fulfill them. Somebody asked Rav Chaim Kanievsky, what should I learn? He's like, are you learning Hilchos Shabbos? Because it's 1/7 of your life. And if you're not holding cup, you're violating. There's no 2 ways about it. You're either learning Hilchos Shabbos regularly or you're making mistakes every single Shabbos. And we see Ma'asim B'chol Yom, people make mistakes every single Shabbos. Me and you, unless we're learning Hilchos Shabbos and we know it clear, we're making errors. So here, Titus HaRasha is telling Unculus, this is what we tell people who convert. Titus is lying. I'm telling you, if you convert, it's not pasha to be a yid. There's thousands and thousands upon thousands. Tilim of halachos. Zeal, better. Igre behu be'ahu alma. You should do something. You should be megare them. You should provoke the Jews. V'habis resha, and you should become a head. You should become someone who is a leader. Dichsiv hayutza reha lerosh. Those who would abuse the Jews would become the heads. Kol hametzer l'Yisrael naserosh. Anyone who tortures the Jews becomes the head. Amar le dine dahu gavra b'mai. He says to Titus, by the way, what was your punishment in the end? The Gemara says on the top, at the very last of this Amud, going to the top, we'll learn just a couple of lines here. Amar le, Titus responded, B'maya de pasik anafshe, that which I did to myself is actually my punishment. Kol yoma, every single day, michnashe le lekitme, they collect my ashes from all of those 7 bodies of water. V'daine le, I get judged. V'kalu le, I'm burned yet again. Umivderu ashev yame, and they spread it out over all of the 7 waters yet again. And we are in the middle of the story, but it is time to stop. We'll stop right here, 3 lines down from the top of Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. We'll pick up right there tomorrow. Wishing you all a beautiful night.